And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tech20 Tuesday. This is number 10 in our series on artificial intelligence and in education and learning. And so today is a fun one, AI and FSL. And so I'm really excited to welcome from our friends at EECD and a former ASD-W teacher, Michelle Byrne. And Michelle is involved as the Center of Excellence for Language Learning. And so she's a lead down there. And Michelle, welcome so much. And thank you for agreeing to join us today. And we're going to hand it over to you. And she's going to walk us through some of the ideas she has about leveraging AI for learning.
Share my screen. Okay. All right. That's showing up now, right, for you, Jeff?
It is. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So I've been exploring how AI can be harnessed specifically for French language learning. I just wanted to share some of my findings and discoveries with you. Most of the tools that I use really are ChatGPT and Copilot. And so some of the examples I'm showing you, those are the tools I was using. So effective prompting, well, we know it's crucial because it directly influences the quality of the AI responses. So I have been spending some time reflecting like what areas specifically for my teaching practice that are most important. Because I do want to be, intentional and provide the context that's meets my needs. As often in you'll see around AI tools with education is it will say create a lesson plan or that's appropriate for, for example, a grade 6 learner. Well, as a language teacher, I'm thinking, is it a grade 6 early French immersion, late French immersion, intensive French, or English additional language learner? That to me isn't as important. It's the CEFR level, which was more important to me. So, and this is a tool, if you're not familiar, it's a tool that helps language teachers understand and organize what learners should be able to do at the different levels. It's on a continuum. It's a common language. It's not tied to a program, but it's tied to all language learning. It's a global a tool, reference tool, and AI does seem to have a good understanding of it. I mean, you do have to use your professional judgment, but using the CEFR as a level is what I'm more interested in as a language teacher. In another area for me of interest is the action-oriented approach, and this is closely aligned with the CEFR framework, and it's a methodology that views learning as the learner as a social agent who has tasks to accomplish. In scenarios, it focuses on how they can function in the real world with the language skills that they've been learning. So it's a lot of designing tasks and scenarios for the learners. So that's an area I really want to grow in my teaching practice as a language teacher. It's a best practice, so I want to ensure to have that. And of course, UDL strategy specific for language learning. I'm very interested in to be able to meet the diverse needs in my language learning classroom. So starting with that effective prompt, I found this is where I'm getting the most highest quality of feedback. So crafting the prompts, this is, again, you can get really precise and strained with it, but you can ask for sure. Again, I want to have the CFR level is what I'm noting. This is a lesson activity I had an idea of with, say, my PIF grade 7 students who are around a level A 2.1, and I want to design some learning activities using that action-oriented approach, but connected to financial literacy skills. And the CFR is closely aligned with financial literacy skills. So asking to generate some ideas of activities and to be sure to include how does it align with my descriptors, proficiency descriptors, and the UDL strategies. So it quickly comes up with many unique and great ideas. This was probably the most simple one, but I really appreciated how simple it was in the structure, because then I could easily expand and elaborate on it. So this was an activity. I'm trying to incorporate more of these in my post-intensive French class to, create a more engaging and relevant learning activities. So I really enjoyed how it was just more of a kind of a structure skeleton that I could use to design other learning activities around. But I'm really interested in giving me my CFR alignment and gives me some strategies to remind me what can I do to support language learners specifically. As a language teacher, especially if you are a French immersion language teacher and you're teaching your content subjects, math, science, social study in a second language, it is has its added challenge in that you need to have two objectives. You have to have the content objective, but you also need to have your language objective. And if you've ever, I've taught for a number of years of the grade 6 late French immersion science, and it's challenging, but you do ensuring that you're transparent with your learners of how the content objectives align with your language objectives. So leaning into AI to help you when you are designing your learning. Am I doing that? Is this how can I be sure that I'm doing this? Is a great tool to have in your AI for sure is a great assistant for ideating and brainstorming. And I also do some work with schools around the province who are doing some innovative projects around looking to enhance French language learning, given their specific context. And so they're using human design principles to find solutions that are grounded in their unique needs, their community context, trying to maximize local resources. So when we get to that ideating phase, especially using this AI, having AI as an extra tool to help us during that phase is really, really helpful. It accelerates it for us. It adds to it. Cute little fact, this image Copilot, I was just learning this the other day, how easily Copilot, you can ask it to create an image for you. And that created that image for me, this image right here. And it would be fun even for language learning to ask the students, like, what did you think en français, the prompt that I used to get that image. So it created that for me. I thought that's cute. So again, some of the schools, these are some of the schools to share a little glimpse of what some of the work around the schools that I do work with. A lot of them are looking for how to increase our exposure to French language learning and culture beyond the classroom, given their unique context. So AI, getting to have the AI to lean into AI tools to help really get specific and precise to help generate some ideas. What do you have available in your environment? A lot of these would be remote rural schools, Anglophone, no French immersion option, Anglophone communities. They'll say our learners can't go to a French restaurant and have the dining experience. But what do you have in your community that you can maximize, that you can create learning activities to provide an immersive French language learning experience? So some of the it's really helped to enhance that creativity side. So even this was one of us high school they had over walking distance to a grocery store. So they started brainstorming how could they create learning activities for their learners, high school learners at this level around this theme. And sure enough, they came up with some great ideas. Same with, what is in your environment? Well, we're very rural. We have woods and outdoor learning spaces. And well, how could you integrate language learning into that environment? So using AI to help the brainstorming piece to get really solution focused and generate ideas has been really, really helpful. This is one, it's a really specific one that one of the schools I worked with, she was taking her learners to a French bilingual camp, horseback riding camp, and she was looking for solutions or ideas on how can I prepare my learners to go to the camp? She's apprehensive as the teacher and the learners. So leaning into AI to help generate some ideas around how, and including the learners in that process as well. And one of the ideas that came forward was how, what would be the steps to, actually mount a horse in French? What would be the directions? So she really liked that idea. She went with it and asking, prompting it, can you give me simple directions in French at this A1, at this level, A1.2 for my learners? And it generated a nice little procedural for her to work with. And we were pleased when we looked at it that it did have, at that level, there were things like they should know you're working directions, you're working body parts, you're working, some simple expressions and like salutations. And at the very end, the last step was thank the horse, smile, thank the horse and smile. So it was just something to kind of bring the fun. The students, she said, took their chairs and turned them around and pretended they were horses and tried to follow the steps. And she was able to create a learning activity around this learner-centric theme to, help her students and herself feel more confident. So that's exciting. Probably for me, the most useful tool that for AI that I've been playing around with is with the writing piece. Being able, as a French second language educator, often you to find a resource that's in French that is at the level that you need. It's often way too difficult. But leaning into AI to help you rewrite or summarize text at a certain level that you need. And it can be the same maybe topic, but you want to provide a differentiated text for your different learners. You can use this as a tool to do that. Creative writing, write me a story at a certain level, and you can include certain ideas or details around what it is, the theme that you're working on, that you're involved in class, or learner's interest. It will recognize also French Canadian. I've noticed it was giving me more Paris or France French details and asking it, okay, rewrite it in French Canadian. So that was interesting. I loved being able to recycle text. Recycling text is an effective language learning strategy. And so when you're learning using a text and the learners have have developed the comprehension, they understand the context, to be able to recycle that text then for another purpose. So asking, this text was in the present tense, change it to the future tense. This is what we're working on. We're now working on some descriptive word choices and adverbs, and rewrite the text by inserting some adverbs. And then you can keep working the same text, and that lightens that cognitive load for the learners so they understand the context and they can focus more in on the grammar point or that you're trying to work, adding in some more transition words. You could really, think beyond it, but recycling your text, it takes a lot of time and effort for an educator to do that. I knew that was a strategy that was effective, but the time it would have taken me to do that was too taxing. So I love having a tool like this that can do that for me. Information gap activities. This is a strategy that's often used in language learning, and there's some really neat ideas where AI can create some of those types of activities for you that you can ready to go and use with your learners. One of my favorites is eyewitness account, where it's like they're writing an eyewitness of say an accident or crime, and it's the same text, but there's different details, and the learners have to get together and determine what are the differences in their text or in their details to solve the crime. Some fun things like that. You can do dialogues, questions and answers, interviews, and then after rework it again, recycle it, and maybe learners can match it. So writing, I find, is probably the most useful tool that AI has provided as a French second language educator. So I've been reflecting a lot on AI and how, it could have really helped me in the past, like past learning experience. I've been in this role for 2 years. I've been in the classroom, but really reflecting now that we have these tools at our disposal, how could I have really designed a better personalized learning experience for my learners? And so I thought of a scenario where a few years back, where I had a student, was a grade 6 student in my intensive French class, and really struggled with that traditional classroom setting. It's easy dysregulated, not a fan of French class. It was really challenged to get him to be engaged. And we do a unit on one of the themes, post themes in grade 6 is on robots, which funnily enough used to be, what's the relevance of this theme? Now it's very relevant. But so we were going into this theme, and I do this little activity. A lot of French teachers do it as well, where there's a book, it's Robot à l'école, and the students go and build a robot out of school supplies. So I got to actually get those learners to do this, go around the classroom, collect school supplies, and build a robot. And it's a way to review body parts, school supplies, and introducing somebody. So they would introduce the robot. Voici mon robot. Il s'appelle Jeff. Ses cheveux sont des crayons. Ses bras sont des règles. Son corps est un livre. So this was just a little activity. So I'm thinking finally he has something, he's going to enjoy this. Get up, move, but he not impressed. And he shares that he says, this is boring. I could build a robot out of vacuum parts. And it stopped me in my track because I knew that this learner could probably do this because he had a real hyper fixation and knowledge about vacuum cleaners. And he would talk to anybody who would talk to him about it. And his mom would tell us, that he takes vacuums apart in their basement. And so the EA and I that worked with that year, we thought of, could we come up with a plan to do a personalized learning plan for him around, he could create a robot out of his vacuum parts and do essentially the same, but his would be more project-based learning. So we pulled it off. But what I remember most about it, I don't remember all the details. What I remember most is just the students at that moment in time got to see him in a different light when he presented that robot to the class, of just how bright that student was and clever. And when he presented his robot made out of vacuum parts, and he understood the mechanics and the science behind it. So that really stuck with me through the years. And I thought, what could I do now that I have AI tools at my disposal to design something, a personalized learning plan around that really quirky idea? Could I do that? So that's what I did. So I've been playing with it. So using that scenario and just going for it, can you help me create a personalized French language learning project for a grade 6 learner at a CEFR level who has a keen interest in vacuum cleaners, and I wanted to be part of a project. Again, you had to introduce body parts, introduce the robot, and you describe a few details and tasks. Wanted to create a rubric. And just, in a matter of seconds, it creates it for you. And just as an educator to have that, again, the cognitive load removed, that I had something to work with now. And it did a fairly good job. This was its first attempt, and I started to go adapt it. And my mind was able to start thinking about, okay, what other ways? I know, I would definitely, if this was happening today, how would I use the digital portfolio feature in my blueprint to complement this project so he could showcase his learning achievement? So it just kind of made me think, if I didn't have the time, if I was trying to create all these tools myself like I usually did in the past, I wouldn't maybe be freed up to think of these other ideas. So for me, really, for us, the real goal is really, we want to develop learners who have, have autonomy and that learning agency. So I'm really curious now. My next step really is, how can AI be harnessed to help educators and learners, particularly in the high school? That's my background, my real area of interest, to continue to pursue their language skills. And here's a scenario that I just had recently where I had a learner that I know who was doing her co-op in grade 11 and at a salon. This is her jam. She knows what she wants. And now she's motivated. I really wish I would have paid more attention in French class. I see the relevance, but I wish I could continue working on developing my French language skills within the context of, my preferred future now. It's too late. It's not too late. Let's see if AI could help you do that, and maybe I could help you, or your employer could help you. So starting to kind of think more just in a different way. So that's what we did. So just kind of guiding that learner to okay, what if you wanted to do that? You have more autonomy and agency than you think you do. Your task is to decide me. This was her prompt, to decide me a unit to improve my French language skills within the context of working in a salon, which was what she wanted. And I am currently at a 2.1 level, so I helped her determine her level, and I need to learn basic terminology, expressions around that line of work, and a little bit around the goals. I helped her set that up as well. And then she even added, can you provide me some ideas of how my employer in French literature could support me in this process? And it came up with some really great ideas together that I could work with, her employer could work with, and she felt empowered that she had this at her fingertips. And I actually really like the plan that it came up with for personalized for this learner who's now motivated to want to continue her French language skills. And so it gave me a unit as or gave her the unit as asked, and then I even gave some little strategies here of what I could do to support her and the employer, which I appreciated. So having all that said, so it's all wrapped up here, Jeff, but I would really encourage anyone to go with the digital learning homepage. SharePoint has a lot of using AI and the tools and resources that are available. It's if folks don't know about it, I've recently, since I've been here, have learned about it, and it really leaned on it a lot. So I would just like to encourage folks, if they don't know about it, then there's a digital learning. I can put it in the chat as well. So that's a wrap.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Michelle, a couple of questions. So things that caught me. I absolutely love the story about the vacuum cleaner. I think, like, what an amazing way to capture a particular student, and really and how you've used AI to leverage that is amazing. When you and I learned a whole lot about prompt writing today. So prompt engineering is going to be huge for students to learn, and I learned a whole lot. I really like how specific your prompts are. I think that's an important thing. When teachers or students do prompts, are you doing it in English, or are you doing it in French, or do you find it doesn't really matter?
I'm doing it in English, but then when it produces it, because if I'm, and it will give me the response in English, but give me the key parts that I need in French. Introduce these vocabularies related to, and then it gives you in the words that you need in French. To me, my first language is English. I would rather have it in English. So we're using it in English, but then when you need the AI to give you what the actual words or expression are, it will do that for you very quickly. But I would always tend to start using it in English. That's my kind of what I feel comfortable with it. But then having the French skills, I can easily see if it's appropriate. I guess that's where the learner still, even though if the learner goes and does it, having the teacher to guide them and be there to, yes, this makes sense, and this would be, it is important. An important piece. Yeah.
Have you heard from teachers whose first language is French, and whether or not the prompting is working for them in French? Like, is it kind of giving them what they want?
Yeah, it is. Yes. No, I've played around with it in French as well. There's a conference, ACPI. So anyways, a conference, and I went to a whole session about, it was for French immersion teachers. So we did it all in French, and all the prompting and all the discussion and all, it was all in French. He didn't use any English. And even if you did it in English and you ask it, now write it in French, it knows enough to still get your message in there, message across. But yes, the presenter was using only French commands in ChatGPT. That's all he had used as well, and it understood. It was producing the same quality of responses.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I learned a whole bunch more today, and it's all about learning. And so thank you so much for spending 20 minutes with us this afternoon, and helping share about prompt engineering and ChatGPT and all those things good in AI.
You're welcome.
And just a reminder to everybody that if you are looking for some support, I'm just trying to make my slide go ahead. Where is it? There it goes. If you're looking for some support, our digital learning team here in ASD-W, you can reach out to any of them. Lindsay McLean, Joel Everett, Waylon Dixon, Yvette Seeley, Wendy Thomas, and myself. And I'm sure you can reach out to Michelle. I'm sure she would love to hear from you if you have questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can find her in the global directory under the ECD. Are you getting your MVEd stuff as well?
I do, but yeah.
Yeah, find her in the EECD. And that's it. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and we will see you next time on Tech 20 Tuesday.